I used to believe I had everything a man could ask for: a stable job, a warm home, and a wife I trusted more than anyone else in the world. For 7 years, our marriage seemed unshakable. We laughed at small things, shared quiet dinners, and spoke of the future with an ease that made me think our path was certain. To outsiders, we were the image of stability. To me, she was the center of my world. But recently something shifted. At first it was subtle. She began working late, excusing it with urgent projects or unexpected deadlines. I accepted it, telling myself she was simply ambitious. I wanted to believe that her dedication at the office was temporary, that soon she'd come home early again, and we'd return to those simple evenings where nothing felt missing. Yet, doubt crept in like a shadow at dusk, quiet but persistent. Her phone, once left casually on the table, never left her hand anymore. Notifications would light up the screen, and she would angle it away, dismissing messages before I could glimpse the sender. She had always cared about her appearance, but now her wardrobe changed dramatically. New dresses, carefully chosen perfumes, makeup even on days she claimed to be exhausted from work. None of this was evidence in itself, yet together it painted a picture I couldn't ignore. I told myself trust was stronger than suspicion. She had been my partner through thick and thin. She had stood by me when I struggled early in my career. She had whispered encouragements when I doubted myself. Surely, she deserved the benefit of the doubt. And yet, late at night, as I lay awake beside her, my heart whispered a truth my mind refused to confront. Something was wrong. One evening, I found myself standing in the kitchen, waiting for her to return from another late shift. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. When she finally walked in, her smile felt rehearsed, her explanation thinner than smoke. She kissed me quickly, as if trying to erase questions before they formed. I swallowed my unease and told myself I was overthinking. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The turning point arrived unexpectedly. A few days later, her phone buzzed on the counter while she was in the shower. I didn't intend to pry, at least, that's what I told myself, but the preview of the message froze me in place. It wasn't casual. It wasn't professional. It was intimate. Words no boss should ever send an employee. Words no wife should ever receive. I felt my stomach twist, my pulse hammering in my ears. The perfect facade we had built together shattered in that instant. She wasn't just late for work. She wasn't just tired. The woman I had devoted my life to was hiding something that threatened to break me completely. And for the first time, I realized I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I couldn't unsee the words on that screen. They were etched into my mind, repeating themselves with cruel precision. I tried to convince myself it was a misunderstanding, perhaps a joke taken out of context. But the message was clear: desire, intimacy, and familiarity that had no place in my marriage. That night, I barely slept. My wife lay beside me, breathing softly, while my mind raced in circles. 7 years of trust collided with a single moment of doubt. I wanted to believe she loved me still, that she wouldn't betray everything we had built. Yet the phone in my hand had told me otherwise. I felt torn between denial and the unbearable weight of reality. By morning, my chest ached with the need for answers. I watched her prepare for work, cheerful and composed, as if nothing were wrong. Every word she spoke seemed coded in deceit. Finally, I asked. My voice was steady, though inside I was breaking. "Is there something you want to tell me? Something about us?" She froze. Just for a second, but long enough for me to notice. Then she forced a smile, dismissing my question as paranoia. She accused me of overthinking, of being insecure. Her words were sharp, designed to shift blame, but her eyes betrayed her. They darted, restless, as though searching for an escape. I pressed harder. "Who is he?" The silence that followed cut deeper than any confession. She denied again, but her mask was slipping. I could see it in her trembling hands, hear it in the faltering tone she tried to control. And then, as though the weight of her lies became too heavy, she crumbled. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Her voice cracked. She admitted it. Months of secrecy. Months of meetings that weren't really about work. Months of giving herself to another man. The man who signed her paychecks. The one who held authority over her every day. Her boss. The room spun. Every breath felt like glass tearing through my lungs. Betrayal wasn't just a word anymore. It was a wound. I wanted to scream, to demand why, but my body went numb. Then came the cruelest twist of all. She whispered something I wasn't prepared to hear. She was pregnant. At first, she tried to claim the child was mine. But as she spoke, her timeline unraveled. The late nights, the sudden changes, the secrecy, it all aligned too perfectly with her affair. My stomach churned. The child wasn't mine. She dropped to her knees, sobbing, begging me not to leave. She spoke of mistakes, of confusion, of wanting me to raise the baby as if bloodlines didn't matter. Her words poured out like poison disguised as love. I stood there, motionless. The woman I thought I knew, the life I thought we had, it was gone. All that remained was the echo of betrayal and a silence that told me one truth more clearly than her confession ever could. My marriage was no longer real. In the days that followed her confession, my home felt less like a sanctuary and more like a stage where every word, every glance, was rehearsed. She moved carefully around me, as though fragile gestures might erase the truth she had spilled. But betrayal doesn't vanish. It lingers, poisoning even the air between us. I replayed our years together, the sacrifices I had made, the trust one had given freely. I remembered working overtime so she could finish school, standing by her during family struggles, holding her hand through every storm. All the while, I believed we were partners building a life together. Now, that history felt stolen, rewritten by the selfish choices she made behind my back. At night, when she reached for me, I felt nothing but disgust. Her apologies blurred into excuses, claims that stress at work drove her closer to him, that she had felt unappreciated, that she never meant for it to go so far. She clung to phrases like "we can fix this," and "you're the only one I truly love." But how could love coexist with deceit? How could loyalty survive after such a betrayal? She tried to manipulate my pain into guilt. "If you leave me," she sobbed one evening, "what will happen to the baby? What will people think of us? We can raise it together. You've always wanted to be a father." Her words were daggers. She wanted me to carry the weight of another man's child, to sacrifice my own dignity so her mistake could be disguised as devotion. That was the moment I felt something shift inside me. Grief gave way to resolve. My heart, though scarred, refused to be trampled further. I would not be manipulated into raising a child conceived in betrayal. I would not chain myself to a woman who valued convenience over honesty. Friends and family had mixed reactions when I confided in them. Some urged forgiveness, saying marriage required patience, that mistakes happen. Others looked me in the eye and told me the truth I already knew. Forgiveness in this case meant self-destruction. I listened politely, but deep down, my choice was already clear. I sought legal advice quietly, determined not to let her see the strength gathering in me. Each document I signed was a step toward freedom, a reclaiming of the dignity she had tried to strip away. The attorney slid the papers across the desk, and for the first time since her confession, I felt steady. That evening, she greeted me with the same hollow smile she had worn for weeks, as though pretending hard enough could rebuild what she had broken. I handed her the envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it, her face draining of color when she saw the word, divorce. For a moment, the house was silent. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The power she thought she held over me evaporated in an instant. And in that silence, I found clarity. The weeks that followed were a blur of signatures, meetings, and empty conversations that no longer mattered. Divorce is never clean, but betrayal made the process easier for me. Each paper I signed felt like lifting a brick off my chest. I wasn't losing a marriage. I was shedding a lie. She tried everything to stop it, pleading one moment, threatening the next. Some days she clung to me, whispering promises of change, swearing that the affair had meant nothing. Other days, her words turned bitter, accusing me of abandoning her when she needed me most. But no storm of emotion could shake my decision. She had chosen her path long before I filed the papers. Her boss, the man who had stolen what wasn't his to take, avoided me entirely. Word spread quickly through the office. Whispers followed him down hallways. HR became involved, and though I never sought revenge, his reputation began to crumble under the weight of his own choices. It wasn't my doing. Life has a way of holding people accountable eventually. When the divorce was finalized, I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in months. The ring on my finger was gone, the promises broken, but in their place was something far more valuable: self-respect. I had been tested in the cruelest way, and instead of breaking, I had chosen to rise. There were nights when loneliness crept in, when I thought of the woman I believed I had married, and grief pressed against my chest. But I refused to let the past define me. I threw myself into rebuilding, not just my routine, but myself. I focused on work, on health, on reconnecting with friends I had neglected during the chaos of marriage. For the first time in years, I had control over my own life. The house felt quieter, emptier, but it was also honest. There were no more secrets hiding in text messages, no more excuses cloaked in perfume and late-night arrivals. Just silence, and slowly, that silence became peace. One evening, as I stood by the window watching the sun set, I realized something profound. She had thought I would carry her burden, raise a child that wasn't mine, and accept betrayal as my new normal. But I hadn't. Instead, I had chosen to walk away, to preserve the dignity she tried to strip from me. That choice didn't just free me from her, it rebuilt me. The lesson was sharp but clear. Betrayal may wound, but it does not define. What defines a man is how he stands when the ground beneath him crumbles. I closed the chapter on that marriage, not with bitterness, but with clarity. She had lost a husband who gave her everything. I had lost only an illusion. And in that exchange, I realized I had gained everything that truly mattered.